The rain had started falling gently when Brenda's heart stopped beating. Lying in the sterile quiet of that hospital room, she could feel herself slipping, memories blurring, pain melting away. She wasn't scared. What hurt more than dying was watching Guadalupe, the man she had loved with every bit of her soul, clutch Rachel's hand instead of hers. His eyes never once met Brenda's in those final seconds. She smiled anyway, not out of peace, but acceptance. Love wasn't always fair. Brenda died holding on to a love that had never really belonged to her. But fate, cruel and strange, had different plans. When Brenda opened her eyes again, it wasn't to the stillness of death, but to the sound of a high school bell ringing in the distance and birds chirping in the spring air. She sat up in a bed she hadn't seen in over a decade. Her fingers, soft, unscarred, youthful. The calendar read, April 4th, 2012. She was 17 again. 1,000 questions stormed through her mind, but one thought cut through louder than the rest. This time, I won't waste my love. She wasn't going to chase a man who only looked at her when Rachel wasn't around. She wasn't going to lose herself again in someone who picked her out of guilt, not love. And most importantly, she wasn't going to die begging for attention she never got. As she pulled her hair into a messy ponytail, Brenda glanced at the cracked phone on her nightstand. Texts were already buzzing in. One stood out, a message from Guadalupe. Brenda, movie night after school. Just us. The old Brenda would have melted. Heart skipping, fingers flying to text back yes with emojis. But not this time. She didn't reply. Not yet. At school, everything looked the same, but she felt so far removed from all of it. Rachel still walked like she owned the world, eyes scanning the hallway for someone to outshine. Guadalupe leaned casually against the lockers, grinning like he had no idea the damage his charm would one day cause. And then, as if the universe wanted to test her resolve right away, he caught her eyes. Bren, he said with that familiar smirk, walking over. You ignoring me now? She blinked slowly, lips twitching into a polite smile. Nah, just thinking. Oh yeah, about what? She tilted her head, letting the silence stretch. Nothing you'd be interested in. He laughed. You're weird today. Maybe I'm just waking up. Guadalupe didn't quite know how to take that, but she walked away before he could dig deeper. As she rounded the corner, she saw him. Tyler. He was quieter than the rest. Taller, with always a book in hand and headphones around his neck. In her last life, she had barely spared him a glance. But now, something tugged at her. She remembered how he cried at her funeral, how he stood alone while Guadalupe leaned on Rachel. Hey, Brenda said, catching up beside him. You still into astronomy? Tyler blinked, surprised. Yeah. How'd you know that? Brenda smiled, keeping her pace steady with his. Lucky guess. They walked in silence for a moment. Tyler glanced over at her, confused, curious. You okay? More okay than I've ever been, she said. Truthfully, he didn't push, just nodded and offered her one of his earbuds. Later that night, Guadalupe was still waiting outside her house with a backpack full of snacks and his heart full of assumptions. Brenda stepped outside, hoodie zipped and eyes unreadable. Yuna, ghosted me. No, she said. I just woke up. He frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not the girl who dies waiting for you to notice she was good enough. Not this time. Guadalupe didn't understand it. Not yet. But he would. Because Brenda had been reborn. And this time, her heart belonged to someone who wouldn't wait until she was gone to realize. The next few days passed like whispers, on the edge of a storm. Brenda walked through the familiar halls of the school, with new eyes. Eyes that saw the difference between being admired and being chosen. She could see how Guadalupe thrived on attention. He flirted without meaning, smiled without sincerity, and gave just enough to keep someone hooked, but never enough to make them feel secure. She used to think that was love. It wasn't. It was possession. He still tried, though. On a Wednesday, he showed up at her locker with her favorite drink. "I remembered you liked these," he said, holding out the iced caramel latte with extra whipped cream. She stared at it. "I did," she replied. "Back when I thought remembering coffee orders meant someone cared." Guadalupe furrowed his brow. "Okay, what's going on with you? Did I do something?" Brenda took the cup, set it on the edge of the trash can, and turned to walk away. "Not yet." Behind her, Guadalupe muttered, "You're acting like I broke your heart." She didn't even look back. Maybe in another life. Meanwhile, Tyler remained a quiet but steady presence. He never pushed. He never pried. But he was there, in the background, like a promise. On Friday, Brenda found him in the astronomy lab during lunch, adjusting the telescope like it was a fragile instrument of magic. "You always in here alone?" she asked, stepping in. Tyler looked up. "Mostly. Most people don't like stars. I do." She came and stood beside him. He handed her the lens and pointed upward. "That one's Vega, brightest in the Lyra constellation." Brenda stared through the glass, her breath catching. She wasn't looking at stars. She was looking at a new beginning. "Do you believe in second chances?" she asked softly. Tyler leaned back against the table, arms folded. "I believe people can change, but only if they want to, not for someone else." Brenda turned to face him. "What if they already changed, but nobody around them has caught up yet?" He smiled faintly. "Then maybe they're not where they're supposed to be." That night, Brenda deleted every old message thread with Guadalupe. She took off the necklace he gave her in junior year, the one she wore like a leash. She slept better than she had in years. But life didn't let go that easy. On Monday, Rachel cornered her in the girls' bathroom. "I don't know what you're doing," she said, arms crossed, eyes narrow. "But Guadalupe's mine. He just flirts with you when he's bored." Brenda didn't flinch. "Then he must be really bored all the time." Rachel stepped closer, sneering. "You think you're better than me now, because you grew a backbone?" Brenda stared straight at her. "No, I just stopped begging for crumbs when I deserved the feast." The silence that followed felt like power. And yet, later that day, Guadalupe found her again, in the parking lot, alone. "You're different," he said. "Like, stronger." "I had to be," she answered. "Because loving you killed me." He laughed nervously. "Brenda, don't be dramatic. I'm not. I gave you everything, and you saved your best for someone else. Do you even know what that feels like?" He took a step forward. "I can make it right." "No, you can't, because the girl who waited for you is dead. I buried her the day you looked at Rachel while I took my last breath." Guadalupe looked like she'd slapped him, but she walked away again, head high, steps steady. That weekend, Tyler texted her. "There's a meteor shower tonight. Thought of you. Want to come?" She replied with one word, "Yes." And just like that, for the first time in either of her lives, Brenda chose someone who didn't need her to fall apart just to pay attention. The field outside town was quiet, except for the soft rustle of grass and the low hum of crickets. Tyler had already laid out a blanket near the ridge, where the sky opened wide, uninterrupted. Brenda arrived wrapped in a hoodie and holding a bag of chips she found in her pantry. Her heart thudded, not with nerves, but something gentler, a strange peace. Tyler looked up as she approached, a small flashlight in his hand. Didn't think you'd come. Brenda sat beside him. I needed to see something beautiful tonight. He didn't reply, just handed her a thermos of hot chocolate and pointed upward. There early. Tiny streaks of silver and gold danced across the stars, like glitter dragged across a velvet sky. Brenda let her head fall back, breath slowing. She didn't speak for a while, just watched the sky move in ways she never noticed before. Maybe it was always this beautiful. Maybe she had been too distracted with the wrong people to ever see it. Tyler, she said after a while. Did you cry at my funeral? He turned slowly, confused. What? Her voice didn't tremble. In the last life. I died. Heart failure. I saw everything. I watched who showed up, watched who didn't. You stood in the back. You cried. He didn't laugh or call her crazy. He just looked at her, long and quiet. You're serious? I am. He nodded slowly. I don't know how or why, but yeah, I cried. A lot. Brenda's throat tightened. Why? Because you were kind, he said simply. Because you looked sad even when you smiled. And because I thought you deserved so much more than what you got. Tears pricked her eyes. Not from pain, but relief. For once, someone saw her. You're the first person I ever talked to about this, she whispered. He laid back on the blanket, arms folded behind his head. You don't have to say anything else. Just be here. So she laid down beside him, and for the first time since waking up in this second life, she stopped waiting for something to hurt, but peace never came without a price. The next week, rumors started to swirl. It was racial, always knowing where to hit. She's just using Tyler to make Guadalupe jealous. Someone whispered near the lockers. I heard she told him she died in another life. Totally lost it. Another voice chimed in. The hallway was a jungle, and Brenda was the fresh meat. Guadalupe didn't help. He cornered her after gym, blocking her path. You're making a fool of yourself, he said, jaw clenched. She looked him straight in the eye. You're angry I stopped letting you use me. His laugh was bitter. You think Tyler's better than me? He doesn't even know who you are. Brenda stepped around him. He knows enough not to break someone just because he's bored. But Tyler heard the rumors too. He met her behind the bleachers during lunch. Are you okay? Brenda shrugged. People talk. It doesn't mean it's true. Tyler hesitated. Did you really tell someone you died before? Her breath hitched. She hadn't expected that question. Not from him. I told you, she said. That night, you believed me. I didn't say I didn't. Tyler replied. But maybe I'm trying to figure out what that means. You seem like someone who's lived more than one life. I have, she said, voice softer now. And in the last one, I spent every day trying to earn love. This time, I just want to be chosen. Tyler didn't answer right away. He stepped closer instead and pulled something from his pocket. A small silver pendant, shaped like a star. It's nothing fancy, he murmured. But I wanted to give it to you, because I don't need you to earn anything. Brenda's fingers closed around it. Her heart warmed and ached all at once. Someone had finally chosen her. But even as she held that little piece of kindness, she knew peace wasn't permanent. Not in high school, not in life, and definitely not when the person you once died loving refuses to let go. The next morning, Brenda found a note stuffed in her locker. Meet me by the gym after school. We need to talk. Gee, she stared at the paper like it was a ghost dragging her back into a nightmare she'd already lived. In her last life, she would have gone without question. She'd have waited, heart in hand, for crumbs of affection from a boy who never planned to love her back. But this time wasn't the same. This time, her heart belonged elsewhere. Still, curiosity clawed at her. After the final bell, she walked out slowly, spotting Guadalupe, leaning against the brick wall like he owned the sun. His eyes darkened when he saw her. "You really came. I shouldn't have," Brenda said. "But I'm here. Say what you want." He looked down at the ground for a moment, scuffing his shoe. "You're not the same," she nodded. "I hope not." Guadalupe lifted his eyes, frustration tightening his jaw. "You used to follow me around. You were soft, easy." Brenda's voice cut like a blade. "I was in love. And now I'm in love with someone who doesn't use me to fill the silence between Rachel's moods." That struck. He flinched, just enough to satisfy the bitter part of her. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he mumbled. "You just didn't care if you did." He stepped closer, his voice low. "Do you love him?" Brenda didn't hesitate. "Yes, even after what they're saying." She smiled, almost sadly. "Especially after." He stared at her for a long time. She could see it, his ego fighting his regret. But it was too late. He didn't get to choose her now. She turned and walked away without another word. That night, Brenda met Tyler at their usual bench near the edge of the soccer field. He had 2 sodas, a backpack, and a nervous smile. "I brought the worst snacks ever," he admitted, holding up a pack of stale crackers and gummy worms. She laughed and sat beside him. "Perfect. I hate good snacks anyway." They sat quietly. For a moment, the sky was cloudy. No stars tonight, but she felt more grounded than ever. "You okay?" he asked. Brenda nodded slowly. "Yeah, actually I think I am." Tyler leaned back, hands behind his head. "So, you believe people can change because they remember their past?" She glanced at him. "I believe people change when they finally see the truth." He turned his face toward her. "And what's your truth?" She didn't speak. She just leaned forward, slow, uncertain. But sure enough, Tyler met her halfway. Their kiss was soft, not rushed. No fire, no lightning, just warmth. When they pulled away, Tyler smiled. "I'm not much, but I'll never make you feel second again." You never did. The peace that followed felt like exhaling after years of holding breath. But back at home, something darker stirred. Brenda's phone buzzed. An anonymous number. A message. "He'll never love you like G did. Stop pretending. You're a joke." No name. No clue who sent it. But she had a feeling. Rachel. And maybe Guadalupe too. Because when you stop being someone's option, they don't always let you go quietly. Brenda shut the phone off, heart steady. She'd died once for love. She wouldn't live this second life afraid of it. By Monday morning, the whispers had evolved into venom. Brenda stepped into school like walking into a battlefield. Side glances, stifled laughter, murmured insults that floated through the halls just loud enough for her to hear. "She thinks she's too good now. I heard she begged G to take her back, and he said no. Tyler's just her rebound. Poor guy." Brenda ignored it, but the weight pressed on her chest. Not because it hurt, but because she remembered what it was like to believe all those voices. In her first life, those rumors had broken her down piece by piece. She'd cried in bathrooms, skipped lunch to avoid the whispers, and sat alone just to stop being a target. Not this time. This time, she walked straight to her locker, head up, hands steady. Tyler was waiting for her, standing a little awkwardly, like he wasn't sure what to say. "I heard," he said quietly, passing her a note with a frown. "This was on my desk in class." It was a printed photo of them sitting together near the soccer field. A red marker had slashed through Brenda's face, with the words, "Watch your back, slut." Her stomach turned, but her expression didn't crack. Instead, she tore the photo in half and dropped it into the trash can beside her. Tyler watched. Her. You don't have to pretend this doesn't bother you. Brenda looked up at him. I'm not pretending. I'm deciding. Deciding what? That they don't get to own my pain anymore. Tyler stepped closer, lowering his voice. If this keeps up, I'll talk to the principal. This isn't okay. Brenda smiled faintly. I've been through worse. I've already died once, remember? But even so, the walls began to close in. Later that day, Brenda's books were knocked from her hands. As she walked into history class, laughter erupted behind her, and when she turned, Rachel was already smirking, surrounded by her usual chorus of followers. Oops, Rachel said sweetly. Still clumsy, I guess. Brenda didn't respond. She picked up her book slowly, calmly, even as Rachel leaned down and whispered, He's only with you because you're easy. Everyone knows it. Brenda looked her in the eye. Funny. You're still talking about a guy who doesn't even look at you, unless you're standing in my shadow. That wiped the smirk clean off Rachel's face, but the damage wasn't done. The end of the day, a photo was circulating, a doctored image of Brenda, shirtless, edited crudely, sent through Snapchat stories and whispers, a digital knife to the spine. Tyler found out before she did. He stormed into the art room where she was helping clean up after class. Eyes burning, someone posted a fake photo of you. It's everywhere. I already reported it. Brenda paused, the sponge in her hand dripping onto the table. Of course they did. She sat down slowly, gripping the edge of the chair. I can't stop them, she murmured. I didn't even do anything this time. I just chose myself. Tyler crouched beside her. You don't have to fight alone. Her eyes met his, glassy but fierce. I'm not alone, but I'm still angry. Then be angry, he said. Just don't let them take you down with it. That night, Brenda didn't cry. She didn't scream. She opened her laptop and began writing everything down. Every cruel word, every fake photo, every insult whispered behind her back. She created a blog. Second Life, First Truth. No name, no pictures, just truth. Within a day, dozens of students began sharing it anonymously. Some of them thanked her. Some admitted to being bystanders. A few told their own stories. Her pain wasn't just hers anymore. It became a mirror, and for the first time, the silence wasn't hers to carry alone. By the end of the week, the school felt different. Not better, not quieter, but aware. Brenda's anonymous blog had lit a fire no one expected. It was just truth. Raw, unfiltered, painful, but honest. And in a place where fake smiles and filtered pictures ruled everything, honesty hit harder than any rumor. People were talking, not just about her, but about themselves. About what they'd seen and ignored. About the jokes they'd laughed at that weren't really jokes. Some students shared anonymous posts about being bullied, manipulated, used. Some even apologized, but not everyone liked the shift. Guadalupe pulled her aside near the stairwell during lunch. His face was tight with frustration. Why are you doing this? He asked. Doing what? This blog. This whole thing, making me and Rachel look like villains. Brenda crossed her arms. I didn't name anyone. Everyone knows who you're talking about. She tilted her head. Then maybe they already knew what you were. His jaw clenched. I cared about you. You cared about controlling me, she said calmly. Not the same thing. For once, Guadalupe didn't have a comeback. He just stared at her like he didn't recognize her anymore. Good. She didn't recognize him either. Outside the skies were grey. Rain on the edge of falling. Brenda walked alone toward the backfield, where she and Tyler had started meeting after school. He was already there, hood pulled up, sketching something in a notebook. When he saw her, he smiled. You survived another day. Barely. she said, plopping beside him. I think G hates me. He probably hates that you're not afraid of him anymore. Brenda glanced over. You've been quiet. Everything okay? Tyler hesitated. I've been thinking. She tensed. About what? About how I fit in your second life, he said softly, and how I wasn't even a thought in the first. She looked away. That sting was real. You're right, she whispered. I didn't see you the first time, but I wish I had. Tyler didn't say anything for a while. Just let the rain start tapping softly around them. I don't want to be a rebound, he said. You're not, Brenda answered instantly. He nodded, eyes still on the ground. I believe you, but I need you to believe it too. Not just say it because you're trying to rewrite your past. Her throat tightened. This isn't about the past anymore. Then prove it. She looked at him. How? Tyler handed her the sketchbook. I'm going to apply for a summer program. Out of state. It's selective and terrifying. And if I get in, I'm going. She flipped through the pages. His drawings, his telescope notes, his quiet passion that she'd never known existed before. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because if you're serious about this, about us, you'll still be here when I come back. Or you'll come with me. Or you'll live your life without making everything about one person again. Brenda blinked. That sounds like you're letting go. I'm giving you space to choose for real, he said. Not out of anger, not to prove a point, but because you want this. With me. She swallowed hard. He didn't kiss her. Didn't ask her to say it now. He just stood, handed her the notebook, and walked away through the drizzle. Brenda sat there alone, with her thoughts and the rain, and a heart that didn't quite know if it was breaking or healing. She opened to the last page of the sketchbook. It was her, drawn in pencil, head tilted, eyes fierce, just like she'd looked that night under the stars. And under it, he had written, I saw her first, even when she didn't see herself. The rain had washed the sidewalks clean by the next morning, but it couldn't rinse the weight off Brenda's chest. She stared at the sketchbook all night, tracing the lines Tyler had drawn. He had seen her, the real her, not the girl who had, to prove her worth or win someone's attention. Not the ghost of her old life, just Brenda, just enough as she was. And now he was asking her to choose, not just him, but herself, her future, her freedom. But it wasn't that simple, because the ghosts of who she used to be still whispered in the corners of her mind. By Thursday, the principal called her in. You've made quite an impact, he said, pushing the laptop screen toward her, her blog open, with hundreds of anonymous comments. Some parents are upset, some teachers are concerned. Brenda stared. I didn't lie, I know, but truth makes people uncomfortable. She folded her hands in her lap. Then maybe they should ask why, not silence me. He studied her for a moment. Are you safe? It was the first time anyone in authority had asked that. She nodded. I'm not scared of them anymore. After the meeting, she walked past Guadalupe in the hallway. He didn't look at her. For once, he didn't try to charm his way back into her world. Maybe he finally understood. She was done playing background in a story that had never been about her. Rachel, though, wasn't done. In the cafeteria, Brenda's tray was yanked from her hands. Food spilled across her shirt. Laughter erupted. She stood there, silent. Rachel sneered. You want attention so bad. Here, everyone's watching. But this time, something shifted. A sophomore girl from the art club stood up and said, Leave her alone. Then someone else. Then another. Until half the room was staring at Rachel, like she was the one who didn't belong. Brenda didn't say a word. She just walked out, drenched in milk, but undefeated. Later that day, she found Tyler near the science building, tucked beneath the steps. You were right. she said. He looked up. I needed to be sure this wasn't about proving a point. And it's not. He closed his book slowly. So what is it about? You, she said. Me. Not a rewrite. A restart. And I want to write it right this time. Tyler's smile was small, careful. You sure? I'm sure. He pulled something from his bag. An envelope? I got in. Brenda blinked. The program? He nodded. Starts in July. I leave the week after graduation. A flicker of fear ran through her. The old part of her that hated being left behind. But she breathed through it. This wasn't that life. I'll visit, she said. You don't have to promise that. I'm not promising. I'm planning. He grinned. And after that, she stepped closer. After that, we live. You do your thing. I do mine. And maybe we still choose each other. Every day, without needing to break to fit. He kissed her. Not out of passion, but peace. Brenda felt the past unclench its hold. At home that night, she posted the final blog entry. They offered my heart to someone who never asked for it, but I got a second chance. And this time, I gave it to someone who didn't need to be convinced it was valuable. I didn't just come back to love someone. I came back to love myself. If you're reading this, I hope you never have to die to realize what you deserve. Graduation day arrived with the scent of fresh-cut grass and the low hum of excitement that filled every inch of the football field. Brenda stood in line with the rest of her class, the cap bobby pinned to her curls, the gown fluttering slightly in the breeze. She clutched her speech in one hand, a backup plan she wouldn't need, because she wasn't valedictorian. That had never mattered to her anyway. What mattered was that she was standing, alive, whole. She spotted Tyler across the crowd. He wore his cap crooked and his grin full of mischief, holding up his phone to snap blurry photos of the stage. Brenda smiled without realizing it. Rachel walked past her, eyes forward, not a word exchanged. There was no apology, no sudden understanding, just silence. And that was enough. Not everyone deserved a place in your healing. Some people only belonged in the past. Guadalupe was 3 rows behind her. He hadn't spoken to her in weeks, not since that day in the stairwell. She'd caught him staring once or twice, but there was nothing left to say. Regret was a quiet ghost that followed people who thought time was unlimited. The ceremony dragged, as ceremonies do. Names called, cheers, rising, parents crying. When Brenda's name echoed over the speaker system, a small ripple of applause followed. But the loudest voice came from Tyler, shouting her name like it belonged to a hero. And maybe, finally, it did. After the caps were tossed and gowns unzipped, they met near the parking lot where this whole story had quietly begun. No dramatic music, no spotlight, just 2 people, standing in the aftermath of choices. I leave in 5 days, Tyler said, stuffing his hands in his pockets. I know. You okay with that? Brenda shrugged. I'm still breathing, aren't I? He stepped closer, more serious now. What happens next? She tilted her head, thoughtful. You go be a genius in space. I finished this summer program I signed. Up for. You call me when you miss my sarcasm. And maybe I drive up one weekend and surprise you. He smiled. That's it. No, she said, reaching into her tote bag and handing him a worn folded note. Open it when you get there. He took it without reading, tucking it in his pocket. Okay, they kissed, gently, without desperation. It wasn't a goodbye. It wasn't even a promise. It was trust. That night, Brenda sat at her desk, staring at the wall of photos she'd pinned up. Not the old ones. Not the pictures of her and Guadalupe. Or her filtered selfies trying to look happy. These were new pictures from astronomy night, A selfie with Tyler, laughing so hard his eyes were shut. Her first poem printed in the school zine. A screenshot of the first thank you message she received on her blog. All reminders that her second life wasn't about rewriting the first. It was about becoming someone who would never settle for being second. Tyler texted her one word as he left for his trip. Reading. Brenda smiled and waited. 5 minutes later, a second text came in. I love you, but even if you never said it back, I'd still choose you first. She stared at the screen for a long time. Her heart didn't race. It softened. She texted back. Then I guess this time, I finally chose right. And just like that, the girl who once died, begging to be loved, lived again, on her terms. And this time, she never forgot what it felt like to be chosen without asking.